And this is the podcast.
We're doing the podcast.
Welcome to the, what should we call this? The website is YouTube/OMG Spoilers, as you know, because you found us here.
That makes sense because we're gonna be spoiling some stuff.
Yeah. So can we call it the SpoilerCast?
SpoilerCast. I like that.
Yeah.
It's good.
So this is the SpoilerCast review. We did an episode earlier where we talked about our March Madness picks, and that was like, just us shooting the breeze, talking games, talking shop.
March starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
For us.
But today, we're not going to be talking shop generically. We're not talking about the business. We're not talking about Mario. We're talking about one game.
Yep.
Deadspace 3.
Our first review, essentially.
Our first review. This is a important milestone for a young podcasting team.
There could be a lot of reviews coming forward in March.
Yeah. So this is exciting. I had high expectations of Dead Space 3.
I had extremely high expectations.
And, it was a lengthy campaign. It took us a little over a week to finish.
A very lengthy campaign.
It had some highs and some lows and a lot of really exciting stuff that we could talk about.
Yes.
So what we've done here is we're going to be talking through Dead Space over the next half hour, and I've got a bunch of clips that we're going to be talking to, and it's in chronological order. So if you stay with us through the end of the podcast at minute marker 30, we're going to be talking about the end boss fight.
Yep.
So if you're worried about spoilers, maybe you watch for about 10 minutes, and once you feel like we've gotten far enough in the game that we're approaching spoiler territory, then you just turn it off, and then after you've played the game, come back and check it out.
Sounds good.
So
let's do it. Let's talk about some Dead Space.
Dead Space.
There we go. EA, very familiar.
So,
EA.
So we both played and loved Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2. Which was better, Dead Space 1 or Dead Space 2?
Ooh, I was so impressed by Dead Space 1 because it was just so fresh, so different, and having worked at EA at the time was just so un-EA. It was awesome. So that had a much bigger impact on me. I thought Dead Space 2 was probably a better package overall, but I mean, the leap from what was essentially the survival horror genre of Resident Evil 4 at the time, back on the GameCube, Dead Space was awesome. It really brought survival horror into the current generation, and then RE5 kind of wasn't able to catch up.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm noticing here in this opening cinematic is that we're on an ice world, and the second thing is that we're not Isaac Clarke.
We're not right now, and why would you take your helmet off in negative 30-degree weather? Do you need to take your helmet off to talk to someone? In fact, I would think it'd probably be harder to hear someone in that weather with the helmet off. You got the little transmitter inside. Why not just... So anyway,
yeah, so this is co-op. You and I we're actually playing this together.
Was this our game?
This is our game.
This is our game. Yeah.
And it's co-op because it takes two people to open a door. It's an important co-op.
Would it be fine?
So we're on an ice planet. And,
this is after we died. We died
Some jerk told me I had to play on hard difficulty.
Dude, yeah, come on.
So this is feeling a little Uncharted 2 right now.
This is feeling, a little. I like this. I like this part.
This gets used a couple of times throughout the game.
Yeah, every mechanic, they kind of have to use probably 2 or 3 times throughout the game. You have the rappelling down, you have the rappelling up later on.
Okay, so we had a little bit of a combat sequence. We're on this ice planet, and what's this guy saying? Let's let him talk here.
Yeah, yes, sir, of course. Good. Glad to hear that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it just happened.
So we didn't really get a chance to get invested in these characters, huh?
Yeah, I was kind of confused. Like, is this a prequel thing? Is this I was a little bit confused what was going on.
Alright, so ice planet, last people, there's still hope. We need to get this capsule. And then the boss man says, thanks for getting the capsule. Everyone else is dead. You're dead. Capsule's deleted. Boom, game over.
Yep.
And that's where our story picks up. Now, I'm a little confused because Dead Space 2 takes place on the Sprawl, and what's this flashback to the past? But I guess now here we are 200 years later.
Yep. Yep. So, I mean, the story overall, as we kind of go through it, I was a bit lost, honestly.
I was too. I was very confused.
I did not get what was going on.
They're using this character Ellie to really draw you in emotionally.
Yeah, which didn't work.
I don't remember who Ellie was.
Is that the chick from the shuttle the first time?
No, because that was Nicole and that was his wife.
Oh, okay.
She died, her girlfriend.
Yeah, and at the end of Dead Space 2, were you you're up with Ellie, and then starting this game, you like are totally not connected with her. I was great. Yeah, I was
So
like,
they have done a lot of environments. So the first environment we saw was this ice planet in the prequel, and now here we are. We're actually Isaac. I'm playing as Isaac's, I guess, abductor you could call him, military man.
yeah, like escort abductor.
And we're on Earth, and Earth has got some Blade Runner vibes. I'm getting some Deus Ex vibes. It's
Yeah,
cool to see this.
It's a cool different environment for Dead Space, but like fighting these soldiers. I mean, come on, it's like
Yeah, I didn't get headshots on purpose because it's Dead Space, and I'm like, you need to shoot the living.
I think there's an achievement to shoot him in the head, actually.
Yeah, they smartly made it so that you need to shoot these guys in the head.
But like
That's
the
not
game,
good.
I mean, like the feel of this. I mean, it's 2013 for Pete's sake, and you compare this type of third-person cover-based shooter gameplay against Gears of War or Uncharted. I mean, this feels so tacked on.
Yeah.
Like they have this little, dodge thingy where you can like roll, but it does absolutely nothing. You can kind of take cover, but it's really not smooth. I didn't really get it why you had to have all the soldier gameplay in there, or it didn't offer any type of different special.
This is obviously accelerated, but we spent a lot of time fighting soldiers and exploring Earth, and now we're finally seeing some necromorphs, and now we got to remember, okay, now we do shoot them in the limbs.
Yeah, and what was really interesting about this moment, I think you see a little help message there that says, hey, remember to shoot these guys in the limb. If this were my first time in the Dead Space world, I would have no idea how to finish that battle.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, that was a pretty tough battle. We died like twice. And I'm like, why would the tutorial come up after that? Yeah.
So we fight through Earth a little bit, and then we get to our first, really big set piece moment, which is another, they added a lot of emphasis on the cover-based shooter, the Gears of War type stuff. They also added a lot of emphasis on big set pieces. They did that in Dead Space 2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are on this moving train, fighting our way through, killing some more soldiers at this big escape moment. What did you think of all these set pieces? Are they worth the investment?
Yeah, I mean, I like the set pieces in the game. If you get into outer space soon, it's pretty cool. I think we'll talk a bit more about unique set pieces, which are fine, and then there's the actual kind of level-to-level stuff. I think we'll talk about how that was reused at times.
Yeah, I mean, this moment is cool, but all EA games have a cool first 2 hours, It's like the EA way is
they
like,
focus on.
you've got to get the first 2 hours, the first 30-minute experience, you need to have every mechanic in it. And there's a little mini game.
Yeah, little button masher, mash those buttons.
So they're trying to, as you can see, they're trying to get all their set pieces, all their gameplay types, everything they can into the first 30 minutes at this point. And, the first 2 hours are going to feel highly polished, which is cool. But then you get to hour number 14 and you're like,
You're like,
a lot of
like I've seen this
narrow
room before.
hallways. Literally, there were reused rooms.
Oh, absolutely. There's a reused ship. I mean, like, I get to the point where we're doing some of the side missions. Like, one of the side missions was copy-pasted. I swear, and they just changed some of the enemies and stuff. Pretty early in the game, too. It's your first 2 optional side missions. Really surprised that they did that.
So here we are in the game. We're flying through space. We've escaped Earth Gov. We know that the unitologists are crazy and Earth has gone to crap, and now we're going to rescue Ellie, this chick who we apparently care about.
Is that what we're doing here? Okay.
And her distress signal is coming from this ice planet, and we're in space around this ice planet.
What do you think about this sequence here?
Free fall. It's another one of those little checkboxes. It's like you got to have the ice picks moment from Modern Warfare. You got to have the free fall from God of War. You got to have the cover-based action shooter, Gears of War. It's like this is a total derivative game, and it no longer feels like Dead Space.
No, they.
It's like how many different things can we? How much homage can we play to all these different other games?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big pieces of feedback for Dead Space 3 is that it feels more like an action game.
Yeah.
Like action adventure than a survival horror.
To its detriment. I mean, it's a fine action adventure.
You gotta
game, but I
ask,
don't
like,
play
is that what I want my Dead Space to be?
Not at all.
Like, do I want Dead Space 4 to be, more Gears of War? Like, not really. That's why I got Gears of War.
That was a great transition, though, there, from the free falling, and now we're in the spacewalks. I really enjoyed the spacewalks.
Yeah, this was actually probably one of my favorite parts of the game, is that you would kind of have this freeform area. It's very unique. You don't get a lot of space games that kind of take you out there and feel like you just have total freedom, kind of going from ship to ship and exploring different scrap and these debris fields and kind of derelict ships and stuff. It was a lot of fun to kind of do that.
We'll get to talk about that in a minute.
Oh my gosh, it's the bench.
Here, this is our first introduction to the bench.
So what did you feel when you first opened this bench?
So
I mean,
what
right
they
here,
did,
you're like, it's trying to teach you.
What? Oh my. Where to begin? Okay, so the biggest problem with the bench is that they try to make it all cool that you've got all these different weapons, but it's actually, there's such a thing as too much choice. I loved in Dead Space that there's a rollout of new weapons, and I think about in Bioshock. In Bioshock, when you get the shotgun, they put you in this room with a spotlight on the shotgun, and you can't see very far in any direction around you, and you get this shotgun, and then a whole bunch of dudes come at you, and the shotgun is the perfect counter weapon to that, and you find a weapon, which is awesome, and then the game teaches you how to use the weapon, and you feel awesome, and you're like, this weapon's great. In Dead Space, they're teaching me that I can make any weapon I want to, right out of the blocks. The world is my oyster. And I'm just like, it's too much. I don't know.
It felt really overwhelming.
So overwhelming.
At first. And the thing that was crazy about this UI is that you have all these options, like limitless options, but comparing them against each other was
very challenging.
They're impossible. You literally have to, look at those little stat things at the bottom, take a mental snapshot in your mind of what this setup was, back out, swap out the weapon like into your actual loadout, and then like try and remember, was the damage a few ticks more on that, or there was the speed a bit more on that? And I'm just like, wow, like how are you supposed to really know what's good and bad here? And it was so interesting if you pre-ordered the game or really bought it from anywhere, whether it be GameStop or Amazon, or you usually got some overpowered weapon,
which you'll use for the whole game.
And I literally used the same weapon the whole game, and I kind of kick myself for that now because I feel like I kind of missed a bit of the experience. But they kind of just like give it to you. They're just like, here you go, super powerful weapon, you should use this. And it was just too easy. It just like it was kind of. I don't feel like I got the true experience having to like slowly craft up my weapon piece by piece. Maybe I should have forced that upon myself. But these pre-order programs get out of hand. They like everywhere's trying to buy your pre-order with all these crazy incentives.
Yeah. So here's my thought on the bench. The bench is would have been a great Facebook game tie-in.
That would have been awesome.
We work in social games, so we're a little biased, but here's the reality. There was this Assassin's Creed Brotherhood had this cool Facebook game tie-in where you could send your spies on missions and you're bored at work and you can pull up Facebook, you can't turn on your Xbox, and you can send out your assassins and level them up and spend all the stat points. Like that level of depth and complexity that bench had is awesome if it's in a web interface and if it's not core to the game. If it's a smartphone app that I can play that syncs with my game, if it's anything like that, that'd be great. But in the actual game, I want to find an arc gun and play with that art gun, and then just keep it simple.
Yeah, I think that would have been a great idea. I would have loved to play with the bench on my iPad, on the train home, going home, like customizing my stuff and saying when I get home, I'm going to use this loadout. That just would have been a lot of fun. I love the Assassin's Creed Facebook game that they did. It was a great feeling to like do some stuff on the web and then go boot your Xbox. Like, oh, you guys are all leveled up. They finished their missions.
That's an example of using it to complement, not replace. It's like play to the platform's strengths. You don't have a keyboard on an Xbox. It's hard to manipulate using the joysticks instead of a mouse. The bench was too ambitious. Anyways, we got to keep this show going here.
We got to keep going.
Let's check out some of our other footage that we got. So after the bench, we're going through, and it's time for the first Dead Space puzzle.
Yeah, this one, I think we figured this out after a while.
It's co-op. You gotta pull it down.
So let's talk about co-op a little bit, kind of how that changes Dead Space. So I thought it was fun to play co-op and like have someone else there, and during moments like this, you could chat about, okay, we know they're going to be coming from this direction, so you cover that way, I'll cover the other way, and then
I fall down here, and this would have been a game over for me, but you able to revive me.
And those were cool, but I mean, the whole time we were kind of chatting here, just like gabbing, like, oh, isn't that, we're in the elevator, blah, blah, blah. It really took a lot of the scary out of Dead Space.
Because I could see that a guy's coming up behind you, and I'd be like, he's behind you, or I'd just shoot him.
Yeah, you just shoot him, and then I'd shoot him in the leg, and then I'd turn around and stomp him or something.
Yeah,
so
never
you get some good
terrifying
gameplay out of it, but it really took away from, in my opinion, the spirit of being alone, just feeling totally alone in these worlds, and not knowing what is behind you. Really, that's the magic. And we actually made a conscious decision after this first playthrough for about 3 or 4 hours that we were going to go about it solo.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? We kind of want to feel more Dead Spacey. So maybe it's best we go our separate ways.
Yeah.
And
I don't regret that decision.
Yeah,
I actually more scary
no
moments.
offense. It was like we had more fun like playing separately. It was.
There were a couple of co-op missions which will show. By the way, this is a little electrical mini game. Dead Space is known actually since Dead Space 1. They've had little mini games. They've had little puzzle games.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean,
it's fun. It breaks up the pacing. It's
Yeah,
nice.
they're fine. I mean, obviously some of these were very co-op designed.
Although you can do this solo.
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
just
yeah.
control both sticks.
So yeah, they're good fillers.
But, so early in the game, we find a co-op mission. There's 2 characters, because I'm the guy who's sort of abducting you.
Yeah.
And it made a lot of sense that we played co-op early on. I think there's a co-op mission at level 4, which means you have to be playing co-op or you can't access it.
We did that one.
We did that one. And then there's not another one until like level 13 or 14.
Yeah.
There's like the whole middle section of this gameplay.
Like why?
So this is the co-op mission, and the really interesting thing here
we
is
played this fight 2 dozen times.
Your character didn't see that. Isaac Clarke did not see the toy soldier, and Isaac Clarke is not hearing the audio that my character is hearing, which is my son. Why did you abandon me? I died because of you. So I'm hearing all this dialogue and all this torment and seeing all this crazy stuff, and your guy is seeing. I forget what you saw. What were you seeing?
I just watched you. I just watched you looking at the ground, like.
Yeah.
Dude, like,
that was pretty cool.
That's cool. I mean, it reminds me of that Splinter Cell stuff, from where you kind of have a separate mission you didn't know that people were doing. So that's fine. That's a nice add.
This was balls difficult.
This one was balls difficult. This was probably the hardest fight in the game for us, and for me throughout the whole thing. Let's talk about difficulty a little bit, because the other thing about co-op is the majority of the game was dead easy.
So easy.
I mean, we were playing on hard difficulty. And because you're getting double supplies from every single drop, yet you're not getting double enemies, and you're not, their stats aren't changing. So you essentially just have double firepower altogether. And we didn't even play with some of the extra circuits and stuff that give you like when I heal, you heal.
Yeah.
So we were even playing it at the most difficult point, technically. And that also kind of took away, in my opinion, some of the fun out of the Dead Space experience. Because
now the difficulty problem is twofold. The co-op problem just compounded it. But even playing solo, the fact that they use a single type of ammo instead of ammo for each weapon, and the fact that the medkits spawn everywhere, and also you can craft them, means you're never running low on ammo and you're never running low on health. And those are 2 critical components of difficulty and survival horror.
Yep.
That's what makes it hard and what makes it scary.
Yep, and I mean, I just had flashbacks to Deus Ex, the second one, when they changed it to universal ammo, where it just broke my heart. I was just like, oh, what are you doing? Because it just takes all of that strategic choice from inventory, it just takes it away. And the other thing we talked about, the weapon, and like using one weapon throughout the entire game. You can't do that if the ammo is unique, because I'd use my pulse rifle or something for a chapter, and then it'd be out of pulse rifle ammo. I'm like, oh, I got a lot of saw blades, so I'm going to switch over to the Ripper. Now I'm going to use that.
Yep.
I run out of that, and I'm going to switch over to the arc gun. And it forces you to switch
that one little
and that's what's fun.
Yeah.
And because the ammo works for everything, I just stuck with what was working, and I think I had a lot less fun than if I had been playing like Dead Space 1 and 2.
That was a design decision guided by someone at EA not understanding the free-to-play microtransaction model. Because what they did was they removed ammo. They had to simplify something because they made the bench so complicated, right? So
yeah, well, they had to have all the different resources.
They had all these different resources for crafting, and they think that they're going to be able to sell them to you for 80 Microsoft points, which they do in here, which is like $1 microtransaction, which is like something you'd see in a Facebook or iPhone game.
Yep.
But that's totally inappropriate for this type of game. 1, because you've already paid $60, and 2, because you're never even going to mess with it in this game.
Yeah.
You don't need to. The design doesn't encourage you to use different weapons.
It's just I was very disappointed.
They
by
got
that.
rid of something great and they replaced it with something interesting that they thought was representative of the times, but was actually just a very poor execution. Free-to-play is not a bad thing when it's executed well. It was not executed well.
Yeah, it was tacked on, and they made
other
design sacrifices for it, and I don't think either fans or critics thought it was a better experience because of that.
Such a shame. Well, this is a cool little set piece here. We're trying to break free a space shuttle, and of course the engines ignite too soon, so there's fire and you're running. And this is the first time we get introduced to the invincible Necromorph.
Yeah, I mean that guy's been around for a couple of
sucks.
games. No
one likes him.
I get why he's there. You got to have the kind of the chase element. But the thing that really makes it frustrating is the checkpointing. So like you're pretty far here. You've probably been playing for
I played this checkpoint like 100 times.
3 or 4 minutes to get to this point. You know, it's a tough sequence. There's like instant death points throughout, and if you die even like this far after going up this elevator, running all the way down this thing, you got to go all the way back to where the entire like time sequence started. It's just really annoying.
I did think it was a cool sequence, but you're right. It's like checkpointing just ruins that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it can just it can get really frustrating really fast. And there's some other weird checkpoints in the game where like it'll happen before you go up like a 30-second elevator or something. And
Yeah.
What? Like,
There
must be some loading thing or something. But
well, they got rid of the save system in this game. Along with simplifying the ammo and the health and just generally making it a more action-oriented system, they also just put autosaves everywhere, which generally I'm in favor of, except in survival horror. Like, you know, I think back to Typewriter Ribbon in Resident Evil. I think about Dead Space 1 and 2, where you have to find a save station.
Yep.
There was nothing like that there. It actually led to some confusion.
That's actually true. I think actually at one time I thought I was kind of done with the sequence and I quit the game. It did not auto-save for me yet. I actually loaded back and I turned it up the next day.
Generally though, it's just like it's a common theme. They took survival horror and turned it into action shooter. They kept the theme the same, Necromorphs, Deadspace. It's still a horror-themed game, but the gameplay is no longer survival. It's now action shooter.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe I'm kind of ripping on the game a bit throughout this, but the core gameplay is still really fun. I mean, like, that core concept of Dead Space, of strategic dismemberment, of, having to, get through these sequences, combining your stomps, getting all the kind of resources, and the kind of feeling about being in space and all the weapons tying into that. Like, that's still really great. And like every time you're in one of those combat sequences, it feels good and it's satisfying. But I think the changes they made for this version in particular took it away from what was really good about the first and second game.
And it certainly is a meaty game too. I mean, there's a lot of systems that have room for improvement, core systems that we just discussed, but man, in terms of value, the number of systems that we get introduced to, from the spacewalks to the cover, the shooting, to these action one-off set pieces, and then when you talk about things like all the different locations, the ice planet, space, Earth, like, this is a big game.
Yeah,
a big undertaking.
I think I clocked in at about 19 hours, and I finished games usually pretty quick. And I think I could have been satisfied at about 12 to 14. I remember the first Dead Space took me exactly 12 hours to complete. It was like 1 hour per chapter. It was really cool balance, actually. I don't know if that was intentional or what, but it felt great, and I finished right when I was like really satisfied with the game. This one is dragged on and on and on, and when you start to see those kind of repeated sets in those repeated rooms, you're like, and you have to backtrack through tons of stuff, you start to tell yourself, man, they could have carved 6 hours off this game and made it a much tighter experience and allowed those 12 to 13 hours be a lot more polished and a lot more solid.
Well, here we've made it to the ice planet, which is like what they advertised, and it's also like less than half the game, or about half the game, second half of the game.
Yeah, I mean, being like outside and in the snow, I thought was kind of cool. Reminds you of The Thing, and that definitely felt kind of survival horror-y. And I like that. But it's not very much of the game. Yeah, you're very much more indoors.
I really enjoyed discovering this abandoned military compound.
Yeah.
Here we are. This is the flashback that we saw at the very beginning. That's what we're re-exploring right now.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like you're uncovering via all the text logs and the databases and stuff. It's like, what happened here, and that's where like maybe it's not survival horror, but you know there's this mystery element that's really cool. I thought that actually was much better storytelling. Was like the mystery and the exploration through the logs and the artifacts and just sort of figuring out yourself. The subtle storytelling was great. The other types of storytelling, which we'll hop to in a minute here, which was like on the nose character cinematics, like trying to convey emotion, was like, whoa. They did not do a very good job of telling the story in the traditional sense through cutscenes.
Yeah.
But through the environments and the exploration and just the world that they created, they actually did a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, you know, Dead Space series is known for being very atmospheric, similar to BioShock and those type of games. And I think they do nail that in this game. The atmosphere is a character in itself and does tell part of that story. Yeah. The actual characters didn't really deliver on the emotional level.
The dialogue. I was looking for. So, and it really gets bad in the third act, which is, you know, what we're taking a look at here.
Yeah, the kind of weird love triangle between.
Well, here, let's have a
look. Let's listen to this.
You made it.
Thank God.
I knew you'd catch up.
Good to see you made it, Isaac. You know, maybe we should give you two some time alone, huh?
What the hell does that mean?
Oh, God.
Path,
It's-
you're awfully glad to see him.
We need him. This mission needs him.
We need him or
It's so angsty.
I'm
It's so
facepalming right
angsty. Oh man, it's yeah, it's not good.
It's just, I mean, like,
They try so hard to make this love triangle, but honestly, Ellie was a pilot in Dead Space 2, and you flirt with her a little bit, but she's not your like long-time girlfriend, and they sort of imply that you had a relationship between 2 and 3, but they don't show you that.
yeah, they're really trying to
They're
force
trying
it.
to force it really hard. And oh, shocker, he betrays us.
Yeah, oh my gosh, the whole time he's been leading, you know, the enemy soldiers to our location. Didn't see that one coming. And then, of course, he gets betrayed, like, by the,
We'll get to
the
see.
mastermind.
See that play out here. So this guy, this villain, jerk. What do we think about him as a villain?
You know, he's kind of got that James Bond thing going on.
He tries to,
Which
but
is, I mean, it's entertaining.
it's entertaining.
But
He can't really back it
I mean,
up.
come on, these aren't masterful characters.
And of course, he escapes just in time to leave us with our first boss fight.
Yeah, no, this was the E3 demo, right? Back in the
Yeah,
day, or like the trailer, like leads up to this. This was probably their best boss fight, I'd say. But honestly, like their only real boss fight. I mean, the other boss fights are kind of more just like little arenas.
Yeah.
And don't really have like a kind of 1, 2, 3 sequence to them, and don't feel anywhere near as epic as kind of this stuff.
Yeah, this one was pretty well done. And
So-
of course, it ends with you getting swallowed, and you got the achievement is called intestinal fortitude. I love that.
Yeah, this one was good. You know, like I was actually surprised here because I was playing the actual boss fight outside, and you get sucked into his mouth, which is usually a death sequence. But then it continues, and I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh, I actually didn't.
Which I actually did in Gears of War.
That's right.
Lord.
Yeah.
So much of this game is, I think they call it, the word is pastiche. It's like, you know, a friendly little, like, nod to other games. But if you do it too many times, then it starts to feel like a derivative work. Which, you know, this game, Dead Space 1, struck that balance of feeling a little bit like Resident Evil, but feeling so new and cool. And this game just feels very familiar, which can be fun. Oh, thank God. We shot him. You know, sometimes you love a familiar game, like a summer blockbuster, great, love it. But when you're thinking Dead Space and you get something like this,
Yep.
it's kind of just mismatched expectations. You know?
It really is.
So I had to throw this in. This is my favorite combat encounter. Do you remember this one?
Oh, this one was. I hated this one.
Oh, you hated it.
Yeah. Why? Because of the checkpoint system.
Yeah, they
Because
checkpoint you at the
they checkpoint.
bottom of the hill.
No, they checkpoint
All you
you
do
way
is
back.
walk.
There's like literally, I counted. It's 45 seconds of getting back to the combat.
Yeah.
Like just running along this cliffside. I'm like,
But-
why is the checkpoint not right here? Right here. It's
But
like,
here again, I love finding this world and exploring, and it's like, we start by seeing the military base, and then we start getting into the science base, and you know, we're gonna explore other parts of this planet too. And it's like this planet has a history and a story, and it's alive. And I happen to think that this combat encounter is pretty fun. You see this little fellow up here. Realize what all that metronome sound we're hearing is actually.
This was a tough battle because you're fighting in this hallway here. Things are going pretty peachy, but if you're anything like me, you're about to get flanked by a bunch of guys. And
Here you get
you're
to
smart.
see.
You ran forward. Okay.
Well, this is not my first time playing this fight.
Yeah, I was.
I got this lightning gun which has arc lightning, which is actually great because when the arc lightning arcs behind you, it's like hint.
Oh, that's cool.
That there's a guy behind you.
Oh, yeah, well, see, because I was stupid and only used the same like machine gun.
So each gun can have 2 firing modes. So I had machine gun plus flamethrower and arc gun plus shotgun, I think.
Yeah.
So I actually had access to 4 weapons, and
yeah, I started to experiment a little more, like down the line.
you know,
my alternate weapons.
the emergent gameplay of like finding the best combos and making it all really satisfying.
Yeah, I think I ended up I liked the flamethrower on one of mine. I used the Ripper, Saw Blade. For one, I used the mine layer.
So some of those combat encounters, man, it's like when they're good, they're really good, but then they do start to get a little tired. I mean, obviously, we're only showing 1 encounter per environment here. Oh, and what have we found here? Rosetta.
Let's see what we got.
Was this interesting to you? Did you think?
It was, yeah. They kind of pieced together the alien.
And the fact that basically what we're learning here is that, you know, humans aren't the first ones to deal with necromorphs.
Yeah. I mean, again, these story moments were a little bit tough to follow.
It was,
for me.
right? It's like when
Like-
a friend explains it to you, like I'm explaining it to
Yeah.
you now,
Like,
it seems kind of cool.
I didn't get that from this little cutscene. I got that from them just like
Some of the
over
dialogue.
hammering, like, oh, gee, isn't that interesting? Yeah.
I don't know, I thought the concept was kind of cool. It's like this planet, everybody's saying turn it off, but actually this planet wasn't, it's not the necromorph homeworld, it's another alien race's homeworld. And they built a machine that, destroyed their race and also stopped the necromorph threat for a long time. So you don't actually want to turn it off. This planet is what's keeping the necromorphs in check, and I think that was an interesting little reveal.
And the unitologists were the ones wanting to turn
You know.
off the machine. Yeah.
And good news, here they are.
Oh, hey, what a surprise. Hello, Mr.
Yeah,
James
he's
Bond
like
guy.
he's everywhere I want to be. He's like American Express. Okay, so he locks us up in here, and this is like the one moment where I thought they did a pretty good job in the cinematic storytelling. I don't know, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I thought it was all right.
Here we go. Let's let it play out. And we'll talk about it.
I'm a little curious actually. We'll talk a bit later about the sequence.
Ellie, come on! Ellie!
It's no good. It's moving too fast. Isaac, do it. Just do it. Isaac, I love you.
See, that's a good place for a mini game because you don't want to press the button.
But you
It's
know
like,
you have
but
to.
you know you have to.
Yeah.
That was a good use of the mini game.
Yeah, that one was well done.
Anyways, I actually tried to let her live, and then we all three died.
Yeah, the acid comes in.
That's right. Here we are in the alien. I mean, the game is all. This is just another environment set. Did you realize that some of these necromorphs were alien necromorphs?
I don't think I picked it up.
They also have
really,
this,
we didn't feel like we got a lot of new necromorphs in this game compared to Deadspace 2.
putrid.
That sequence is great though. We haven't really showed you dying really. A lot of the death enemies are so great. Are we already at the end here?
Yeah, here we are.
Oh wow,
How can you
okay.
believe it? 16 hours and 30 minutes.
Oh, you beat me. So what about this final boss fight here?
So it's kind of cool that, the pacing was fine. They didn't throw very many necromorphs at you. I love the symbolism of actually shoot markers into the boss.
Yeah.
I love these platforms. When you're on this platform, all your powers are up, so your telekinesis, you can actually rip the limbs off of them immediately. This was introduced not just in this fight. and your stasis, practically freezes them.
Yeah.
So these platforms are really fun. I love games that make you feel like a total badass at the end of the game. It's like instead of being an end boss fight, it's actually more of like a reward. Is what they call it.
Yeah.
That was cool, and this battle sequence was pretty fun. All in all, I thought it was a fine ending boss fight.
Yeah, it didn't do a whole lot in terms of gameplay for me. Like, there wasn't really sequences to the boss. It was pretty short. It wasn't really challenging.
Did you happen to listen to the end of the credits?
I did. I did watch all through the
little
credits.
voice that we just heard where at the end, you think that he dies, but he comes on the comm channel.
Yeah.
Are they going to do like a Master Chief thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Dead Space team loves Isaac Clarke, and they'll want to keep him around.
He's floating in space.
Yeah, whether he'll actually be the guy in another game, or whether you'll find him as another character, maybe. Games have done things like that. So.
And look at this. When you finally beat the game, 16 hours in, first of all, they have the audacity to assume that I'm going to want to play it 4 more times. And they unlock 4 new gameplay modes. And secondly, they unlock Classic mode. I really wish that Classic mode had been an option. I would have taken it from the start. In Classic mode, ammo and health packs are limited.
Yeah, I think,
Brilliant. I want that.
I was so excited to see this screen. I was like, whoa, these new modes would be awesome. I would love to try this type of gameplay. But I don't want to spend another 16 to 20 hours running through those same rooms and those same sequences, because they just didn't turn me on as much. And I did New Game Plus in Dead Space 1 and liked it a lot, because that game just felt so much tighter, but I just couldn't do it for Dead Space 3. So I agree. I wish they had those modes, or maybe chosen one of those modes for the actual first playthrough.
Yeah.
Or had they actually trimmed down the game to be in that kind of 10 to 12 hour area, then yeah, I would totally want to replay then if it was a tighter experience.
So my overall thoughts on the game, I think that it was a great experience. When it's good, it's really good. I thought that there were plenty of spots that were repetitive that they could have trimmed down. Like you said, if we can get to that 16 to 20 hours, if we get that down to 10 to 12, that'd be great. I thought that the storytelling was way too on the nose in the cinematics, but the world and the exploration in the world was actually a great way to tell the story, which was excellent. And I just thought that overall it was mismatched expectations. It was a fine action shooter game, and crafting your weapons in that sense was cool, and shooting people and playing with all these different guns, very cool stuff. But when I play Dead Space, I want a limited number of weapons. I want to be forced to use different weapons as I run out of ammo. I want to be always fighting for my next health kit. I want to know when I'm saving my game, So it's just mismatched expectations. It's a fine game. It did not feel like a Dead Space game to me.
Yeah, I think you kind of said everything that I was feeling as well about the game. It didn't feel Dead Spacey to me. It's a great piece of software. It's, got really fun action. It's got a lot of content. You could play it, 3 or 4 times if you were on a budget and you're looking for a lot of entertainment. It's got a lot of value there. So there are a lot of things to like about the game, I think, as a standalone experience. If you're a fan of the series and you've been playing since Dead Space 1 and you had expectations for what this could be, I think it falls short to living up to the franchise, especially compared to what other sequels, now that we're in this kind of very sequel stage of the generation, have been. You look at Halo 4, that's still great, and that still feels
like
awesome and fresh, and Halo, and they've done 5 or 6 of them now. And Dead Space, unfortunately, is starting already to lose kind of its identity
into that derivative area.
with the 3rd game in. So I'm a little bit worried about where this franchise is going to go next. I really hope that they take some of the feedback that they've heard from fans and that they've heard from critics and kind of reevaluate how they want to approach the series. So I think they can turn it around. I think that they can get back to what was great. But this one didn't really do it for me as much as Dead Space 1 and 2.
All right, so we're all friends here. Do you think that people should definitely buy this game and play it immediately? Is it the type of game that they should borrow, but it's worth experiencing? Or our time is so limited, especially as we go into March. Is it a pass?
I don't think it's a pass. I think that you can get a lot of fun out of this game. I think there are some new mechanics that are cool once you can actually experience them, like the customizable weapons. It is cool once you kind of near the end of the game and you can have all these options. And so that's cool. There is a lot of good value out of the game. Compared to probably what's coming up in March, like if you're looking towards, next week, I wouldn't probably recommend getting this over what will be potentially Tomb Raider, potentially, the God of War and Gears of War sequels, which I probably have higher hopes for, and especially as you get towards StarCraft and Bioshock. So I think if you have enough time to binge through it, this weekend, go for it. I think it was a great actual release for February.
Yeah,
because I had enough time, kind of got my fill. It was far enough away. We talk about release dates a lot. I think they moved it far enough away from the March Madness that I hope, that they found a lot of fans there. But if it were like next week and you're at your GameStop and you're looking at the different games on the shelf, I don't think Dead Space 3 can hold up to the competition that's coming forward.
I agree. This is a game that you should play. Make some time to play it. If you haven't played it yet, though, wait till the summer. Borrow it from a friend or pick it up for $40.
Yep.
And good stuff. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching the podcast. Leave us some comments. We read them. We're trying to get this show on the road, and this is a new adventure for us.
Try new things. What you'd like to see, what you'd like to hear about. Talking about more games, talking about industry, talking about business,
and doing some more reviews.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.